So you want to know how to find out if the mortgage broker you hire is a tier one program that runs in the background and does its job that you barely even notice, or is going to be a spoiled brat that you have to watch every step and everything they do. You're in the right place. My name is Darren George. I've been a full-time lending professional since 1987. For reference, first of all, congratulations. You know that the mortgage can be the most important part of the transaction, whereas most people just focus on finding the right house and everything else kind of comes after. Today we're going to talk about the key questions and the reason for those questions that help you decide if the person you've been referred is a true professional or just some guy who doesn't want to keep a real job. So there are a few things here, so let's get right into it. First of all, you have to understand, just because people have the same title doesn't mean they have the same experience, same professionalism, or the same work ethic. Seems obvious, but let's address that. A person's character, especially in a position like being a loan officer, they don't really have a supervisor, they don't punch a clock, there's no real oversight, so their character will totally determine the experience that you have. For instance, a person who's not self-motivated won't do the work they're supposed to do every day. They'll only move when there are pressure points or something needs to be done, or you call them to figure out what's going on. They'll scramble and try to get your loan back on track. Been doing this for almost 40 years. I've seen it all. Some guys are greedy. They just want to make all the money they can. So what's important to you gets put on the back burner because they're focused on how many checks they can get and buying a new boat or whatever. It's not going to be in your best interest, right? What you want to do is find someone who is professional, experienced, but also cares about doing a good job. They take pride in doing a good job. So they'll do that extra work that helps you get the extra benefit for the life of your loan. It's not hard to tell. You just have to pay attention. The bottom line is, once you establish the competence of the person, the character is everything. If they're not a hard worker, if they're not honest, if they're not a direct, open communicator, if you feel like they think they're doing you a favor, it's the wrong person. Everyone puts their best foot forward when the relationship starts. If you have any signs that this may not be the right person, they're a little arrogant or busy or standoffish, that's the best you're going to see of them. How do you think the relationship's going to go? After they get your business, what do you think that relationship will look like? Chasing them down, begging for information, being delayed. Just use your brain and determine if that person is really going to work hard for you. As you're having the conversation, ask yourself three important things. Is this person respectful of my business? Are they appreciative of my business? Do they understand my needs for this transaction? Those are the keys. I've dealt with nervous first-time buyers to experienced investors buying hotels and golf courses. Being respectful and appreciative of the business is a baseline. If they can't show that up front, you're in the wrong place. After you determine that this person is competent and has the right character to work with you professionally through this transaction, you'll want to ask these questions. Based on what we've discussed, what's the best loan option for me? Although you may have your own idea, you want to know if this person's paying attention to what you said and if your needs are important to them. The next question is, what's the best interest rate for that program? The answer to this question will tell you how competitive that broker is in the overall market. Because some people are less genuine than others, the next question you'll ask is, are there discount points associated with that rate? Some people tell you a super low rate because they want to sound competitive in the market, but they're charging discount points to get that rate down. And you need to know that up front. Now, there's nothing wrong with discount points. It makes a lot of sense for a lot of people, depending on how long you're going to be in the property. But it's something you have to know up front because it helps you determine if that person's being fully honest with you or not. And if they don't tell you that, you might be dealing with someone who's a little unscrupulous. It's something to definitely pay attention to. The next question to check if they're being honest with you or not is, can I lock that rate in right now? And for how long? If you ask that question and you hear something other than, absolutely, I can do that, then you know they're probably misrepresenting the rate that they quoted. They want to sound better than other people who may be actually telling the truth about what the rates are so they can get the deal in, and they'll do some smoke and mirrors to change that before closing. How long have you been a full-time mortgage professional? This may not seem like a big deal, but it really is. The amount of experience a person has will tell you how good they are at getting you what you want, solving the problems that always come up to keep your loan transaction smooth. Between your stated objective and actually closing, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of things that have to happen and decisions to be made. You want someone who has the experience to make the best decisions for you and your situation. You don't want to be the guinea pig that this guy learns on. Will I work directly with you or someone on your team? This is very important. What I've seen happen a lot is the best person is the one on the phone, and they get people in and they pass them off to an assistant who's not as good. Well, that's a different experience for you. It's a different person. So you get along with this person, you speak the same language, and he passes you off to someone else who is obviously different. It may be fine, may be great, but it may be horrible. So you want to know up front if the person you trust enough to do business with is the person you'll work with throughout the transaction. If the answer is you'll work with my assistant, you really need to talk to that person up front to find out if it's a good match. Do they have the same communication style? Do they understand how serious it is that you get what you expect during the course of the transaction? Where's their motivation? Are they self-motivated? Do they understand what you want? Do you feel like the person you explained your situation to can explain to this person adequately and they'll understand what you're actually looking for in the transaction? You have to know that up front. I would also ask, what made you get into the business? It's very important. I got in because I love numbers and I love helping people. I still love that every day. Find out why they got into the business. Are they still motivated? Are they still inspired to do a great job every day? Because if someone's jaded, it'll show in their work. You don't want someone who's burned out or jaded to work on your transaction. It can create so many issues. Are they still inspired? Find out why they got in the business, if those reasons still exist, if they're enthusiastic about doing the job every day. Or are they jaded and just going through the motions? One's going to get you a better result, and I'm sure you can tell which one that is. What are your favorite parts of the job? Like, what do you like most about being a loan officer? What do you like least about being a loan officer? Those answers will help you figure out if that's a good match for you, right? You'll know what that should sound like. Just listen to the answer carefully and figure out if that person's right for you. Here's a good one that I always ask. It's very indicative of what you can expect. How often will we communicate and how will we communicate? Doing a loan transaction should never be a mystery for the borrower. You shouldn't have to chase people down. You shouldn't have to call repeatedly. You shouldn't have to email. You shouldn't have to go down there. Like, those are all indications of a bad loan officer. How often will we communicate and how will we communicate? Is that phone, text, email, smoke signal, whatever? Find out what their preferred method is and frequency and decide if that's right for you. As the borrower, you have a lot riding on the transaction. A bad loan officer thinks, oh, I'm getting a check of this much, or I'll get paid this day, without understanding that you're uprooting your house, putting it all in a container to move it to a new house on a certain time. You've made a lot of adjustments to do that. I don't know how people forget, but you're going through things you haven't seen for years, deciding if you're going to keep them or throw them away, or, oh, my grandma got me that, or, oh, this is my graduation, whatever. There's a lot involved with that. And if you have a loan officer who's just thinking, oh, it's a paycheck, or this is going to help me meet my quota for the month, definitely not the person you want to trust with such a large, important transaction, obviously. Another great question is, what are your hours? Some people work late, some people work early. You just want to find out what the hours are, because if you make a call during the time they specify, you should be able to expect a return communication within a reasonable time. Again, it's not supposed to be a mystery at any time what's going on with your transaction. When it's done correctly, the loan is almost an afterthought because you're planning, packing, thinking about what's going to go where, and a ton of other things, scheduling, deliveries, utilities, all these things. When the loan is done correctly, those should be the thing most prominent in your mind, not what's going on with your loan. And if we're going to close on time. It's just amateur stuff, but it happens all the time. What is the time frame for closing this transaction? Now, honestly, if the loan officer's fast and you're slow, it's going to be thrown off. But if you're effective and efficient, all timelines should be met. But you have to have the conversation, right? Here's the key. Is the loan officer accountable for their responsibilities in closing this transaction on time? Or are they vague and evasive about such a simple, definite question? What are the upfront fees? We talked about this a little earlier. Discount points are awesome if they make sense. Not a good idea if they don't. What are the fees that you'll be expected to pay as you proceed through this transaction? That one's pretty self-explanatory. How long does it take to get loan approval? Now, getting a pre-qualification, pre-approval, very different. Sometimes you'll need an automated approval. Sometimes you'll need an underwriter approval. Just depends. You should be able to ask that question and get an answer that has full clarity and transparency, depending on your particular situation. These are all questions I would ask, but of course you're going to have your own specific questions that pertain to your situation, for you, for your family. Here's the key takeaway today. Determine the character of the person you're talking to And some of these questions will help you do that. Everyone who talks to clients will have a practiced approach to answering questions, and some of these are a little different, so you'll be able to see the true character of the person. It's infinitely more important than people think, unless they've had a deal go bad. If you need anything else or have any other questions, we'd love to help. You can check us out here or put a comment below. Hope you found this valuable and that you find what you're looking for.